Welcome to Beyond the Front Door. We bring to you insightful conversations with industry leaders, and I'm your host for today, Robin Romaine of Detroit Real Estate TV. And today we have a special guest who's mastered the real estate game. This is Joan King. Please join me in welcoming her. So Joan, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So before we dive into the world of real estate, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got started in the industry.
Well, I think it's a people business. So my background is marketing, and actually one of my prior clients owned 3 TCBYs, and I was interested in selling my first house. So he came over, and believe it or not, based on decorating and having a design marketing background, he's like, "You'd make a great realtor." And I was like, "Really?" So that was my entry into the thought of it. And then a few years later, I actually did pull the trigger, took the class. And so it became a natural marriage of, you're talking to people every day, doing what you do. And some people start with friends and family. I'm originally from the Upper Peninsula, so I really don't have any family in Metro Detroit. So it's just a natural thing where you're just working with business owners, and then you're helping them with their house or with their business or whatever.
Okay. Well, and being from the Upper Peninsula, you obviously didn't have a lot of contacts here. So what would you say is one of the key factors in your success when you originally started?
I'll go back to early training with marketing. I have a degree in marketing and business. And so the rule of thumb was try to talk to 7 people in a day. Simple thing, and when you're in real estate, trainers will always say, people, they're either talking about the house they have, the house they want, a second home, somebody else who's considering moving. That's your home. Your home is, it isn't about the decorating, it's about the people inside the home. So as your lifestyle changes, usually where you're dwelling seems to change, Maybe you want to move into a bigger home when you've come out of that first home. And then as the kids age out of the home, then you decide that you want to scale back and get on one level living, or there's just transitional living as your lifestyle. Maybe you part ways with a partner, stuff like that.
Right. Well, and life is ever evolving,
Absolutely.
as is the market. And there's a lot of people that are watching this that are new to real estate. Maybe they're becoming professionals. So can you give us a little bit of insight on advice for them as they start out?
As a new agent, I always like to conduct myself, because whenever you're working with people, you can find there's more than one person in a room. At one point, there'll be a problem, right? Or I can leave myself alone in a room and find a problem. So I always think of it in terms of very simple, small town view of my world is, if you met me after a transaction and you were getting bread and I was picking up the eggs in a grocery store, would you like me? Would you say to yourself, she really tried to help me. I trust her. I like her. And I think you have to conduct yourself that way with just anything that you do. Be as face value, transparent as possible, and treat them like I say. You have to like me enough, like you'd invite me to Thanksgiving dinner,
right.
Because we get all in your business. You think you're just selling the house, but there's so much more that underpins the decision to move, decision to buy.
Trust.
Credibility and trust, yeah.
So with the market constantly evolving, do you have tips or insights on the current trend, different perspectives that agents or even buyers should be looking at?
Well, we've had these rates really go crazy, so high, and you can see where I'm sure any agent listening to this is going to go, yeah, call volumes off. Just having that real conversation with your friend, or just, if it's a cold, like a Zillow, Realtor, any of those sites that are on there that have marketing platforms. I do still try to do a measure of that. And when you're talking to somebody that doesn't know you, I always say this: do you have cash to buy that property? And I'd say maybe 1% of people will answer and say yes. Yeah. So now you have to make a decision. What am I putting my monthly expense? The statistic is 48% of your dollar that's earned, your salary, your wage, goes to your housing expense. So if you're renting, I mean, your first tenet of just, I guess, financial freedom is to start paying yourself. So even though the rates have climbed, I mean, the values have stayed really high because we've had a shortage, and it's an anomaly. I think it's not happened in like the 40 some years where prices haven't come down when the interest rates have risen. So you have to just jump in the game and recognize that, you might be deciding to make a commitment to the home, but you're really going to just date the rate, because now at least we have the beacon of hope. We're going to get 3 rate drops over this year, and we've already seen that. I've seen calls go up.
That's good.
Confidence is everything when it comes to buying, because people are scared.
Right. So would you say that that's one of your biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome, or is there something different that you want to touch on for that?
When the market was with seriously 2% interest rates, you still had, I would say, 20% of the people out there. There's an 80-20 rule. Anybody in business will hear it, that we're like naysayers thinking, henny penny, the sky's going to fall and there's going to be this next great repression and they're going to scoop this great deal because they missed the first one. And those people have seen where obviously the rates have risen, the values have risen, and maybe they're still status quo sitting in a home that just really doesn't suit them. And they could have sold that home for more money. And now obviously their dollar is less because we have inflation. So yeah, there's always obstacles. The person at a 2% rate still thinks that there's something more that's going to be had in the future, but trying to convince them that, you don't take the bird in the hand versus 100 in the sky.
There you go. And that positivity and that confidence can go miles.
Yeah, I'm not so much in talking about all of this with people. I'm a numbers person, so I want you to prove it to me. Again, back to credibility. So you can show these numbers. When people want to make an offer, and you ask them to choose wisely. Well, how are you going to choose unless you've been, it's, statistically driven. Here, this is the snapshot of the last 3 months. This is the last year. This is the last 22 months. This is the last 3 years. And they can see all of these trends are that we're holding at about, if you see the price on the market and you've done the comps, you're plus or minus 2%. Now, with the rates dropping, you're going to find crazy additionals that have come into play where you might be calling a home inspector and asking, hey, as time being a commodity and confidence, can I get you in there tomorrow? If you've got a home inspection company that has a vast network of licensed builders that they can call upon and get you in there, it actually means the difference between a contract or not. Oh, wow, you can be there tomorrow? And you've got the appraisal guarantee, right? And you've got the $10,000 deposit. We're not asking concessions. I mean, it's just gotten crazy. But those little pieces and parts help.
They really do. They really do. Thank you, Joan. Thanks so much. We'll take a short break. We'll be back briefly.
Hello, this is Joe from Golden Bear Home Inspections, part of the National Home Services group of companies. We believe in protection with the inspection, and you can give us a call at 989-467-0224 or schedule online at www.goldenbearhomeinspections.com. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for coming back. Joan, tell us a little bit about building relationships as far as with your clients, with your vendors. Why do you think that's critical?
Well, most people, I would say, if they're going to go look at a property and they don't know you and you've been referred, their likelihood of them actually, it's like a Halley's Comet. They're not going to buy the first property they walk through. So you need to get to know them and learn what are they really looking for, because sometimes you'll find people that will say, I definitely don't want this type of home. But as you are speaking to them and really digging through what suits them, you find that they may be over here in their mind, but actually desire something closer to
Right.
this. And that just is consistency, good conversation, upfront buyer interview, and then ideally myself, I like to take them, if you can, to 3 sort of properties that seem to fit, what they're looking for. And then you take some notes. I'm a big note taker. And I follow up. And if I say I'm going to follow up, I have to set reminders
Yeah.
because that's a big thing. And I know now, I mean, we do have some really cool tools with the
Very helpful.
AI and all, for your database, maintaining a good database.
Yeah. Follow up is key in any business, right?
Mhm.
But building relationships, you can't build them without making sure you touch base and keeping on top of that. So I
Staying on top of what they're looking for. Yep.
fully agree with that. So as a top agent, obviously you have some unique insight to the market. So what can you share as far as advice for this current market to the buyers and sellers?
For the buyers and the sellers, as advice, let me see. Well, as an advocate for what you want, if you see a home and don't get stuck on the dollar amount so much. You have a pre-approval, and every 10,000 that you're borrowing right now, lenders are watching. I think it's like $55.
Okay.
So you're not fighting over $10,000. You're fighting over $55. What are your 5-year plan, 10-year plan? Is this a forever home? I mean, that may be. Regardless, those rates fluctuate. So the buyer has to be like, maybe broadening their range of pricing because there's not that much property out there, and be ready to go. Like, assuming that it's cold out. Robin, you just mentioned there's a lot of people out there that are on the inspection list right now. It's busy. And assuming that you're the only person that likes a property is probably the worst mistake you can make as a buyer. Because if you like it, I always say, measurably, there's at least one person behind you.
Yep.
And as for the sellers, the idea that it's a seller's market is a very real thing. They have to be more open now to what is a contingency. How do you protect yourself in a contingency? Making certain you have an agent that's looking at what the onus is on the buy agents underneath the actual offers to assure that those homes have passed proper inspections for the type of financing that they have, that you're not going to run into appraisal issues. Okay. Simple things like they're not located right next to a train and you're being told that that buyer's home is going to sell in a week. It's just, we all know that some properties have challenges over others, and making sure you're doing your diligence for your seller. Your seller has to recognize that maybe things are moving a little bit slower. They could still get top dollar, but they might not be able to move on as efficiently as they'd like. So be waiting for a buyer to move into their home, and then also they need time, and so it's like a poncha train.
Makes sense. And in order to do that, obviously you have to be continually evolving, right? So what types of recommendations or thoughts do you have on your continuing education, professional development? What types of strategies do you use for that?
I think anybody needs a good coach. I lean to a couple of coaches, and always any kind of con ed I can get myself into. I honestly easily spend about 8 hours a week just in the car. We're in the car all the time. That's a great, I call it YouTube University. You're a new agent, that's a great tip, is just go on YouTube, and anything that you'd ever dream to find that you have a concern about, like even just your scripts and negotiating and all of it. It's online. There's great resources out there.
Yeah. And then, of course, the flip side of that is those personal connections. So ones that you can't do through Zoom and stuff like that. But what kind of personal connections do you add for you and your business to help it grow?
You mean like keeping up with people and
little personal touches that you might add so that people follow you?
Yeah, I just had a great debate with an awesome newer agent, and she was talking about how she went to great pains to bring these gifts to the closing, and I will do that, but I'm not like somebody that rotely has this like cookie cutter gift. I like to be personal about it. I hear, like, I'm thinking of some people that I brought them camping chairs because they were like, oh my gosh, we want these fold out camping chairs. So you're making note of that, but showing up after the fact. Yeah. Like you said, follow up is everything. you know, reaching out. I have a 3-day, 3-week, and 3-month. If you've bought, you know, reach out and personally talk to them, ask them about the house, start a new conversation about what life is like in their new place. I think that is really important.
I like those personal touches.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on, as far as the focus of the home buying process, how important, you mentioned before, is the home inspection, and what part of it would you actually consider crucial?
The home inspection itself? Oh, absolutely, 100%. Like, again, another debate I had recently with a gal, and I didn't go into, like, you know, the underpinning of my personal belief on a condo. She says she's an agent. You don't need to inspect a condo, you know, and because everything is there, and it's, you know, they own the drywall in, and I'm like, windows are typically condo dwellers' responsibility. The mechanicals are, you know, even your air conditioning unit. I'm just really big on, you got to get somebody in there that's a licensed builder. Naturally, I make a referral to people I know and trust, and I think that if I'm willing to put my credibility out there for an inspector, that speaks volumes to the type of work that they do. We always, I mean, you don't ever want to be like pretending to be an inspector or play one on TV, right? So you want to point them in the right direction and guide them. And then using that inspection as an opportunity, if possible, to talk about, you know, adjustment in price and terms. It sheds a lot of light, makes them feel comfortable. You know, a home inspector that's going to offer some warranties and guarantees is always even better.
I've heard it said you can't YouTube your home, so obviously that is an important factor. So
yeah, true.
Yeah. Speaking of home inspections, we'll be right back after this brief feature of Golden Bear Home Inspections.
Hello, this is Joe from Golden Bear Home Inspections, part of the National Home Services Group of companies. We believe in protection with the inspection, and you can give us a call at 989-467-0224 or schedule online at www.goldenbearhomeinspections.com. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Welcome back. So Joan, tell me, obviously you had to build your client base from the ground up, being from the Upper Peninsula. So tell me, for new agents starting out, what would you recommend for them starting their client base, establishing credibility, those initial challenges, how to navigate them?
Well, you know, a question I always suggest to people that are considering hiring an agent, it's like, don't ask them how long they've been a realtor, because, you know, I can think of some people that like collect licenses, right? I'm a builder, I'm a realtor. Ask them how many transactions they do in a year. But when you're starting out, you know, using the credibility of a brokerage that you've decided to work for is huge, you know, because you're in really good company. Like, I work for Realty Executives, and everybody here is treated like an executive because we've come here not to have our hands held. We don't need that extra training. We're a little bit more tenured, but if you're new to the team, you can lean to those people as mentors. So, you know, taking the advice of mentors in your office is huge. Outbounding yourself, obviously, if you're deciding to be a realtor, why have you chosen? What's your intrinsic why? Why are you doing this? I mean, typically I would think it'd be to help people. That was me. It was like the idea that I would help you with your biggest purchase. This is a huge thing. You know, somebody, you don't move every day.
Personable.
Yeah, you have to feel like this is something you want to be engaged in to help in the long term. So making certain that you're comfortable with that, with people. That, you know, some people want to be in the real estate business because they do like design and they like to organize. But in reality, they don't want to talk to the couple that is possibly divorcing, dealing with death. I mean, these are life events that prompt moves a lot of the time. And if you're like, I'm all in, I like to help people, then marketing yourself. What is your sphere of influence? Just simply friends and family. If you're not from here, my sphere of influence really was my business, because I had a huge pool of advertising, marketing clients. And then, you have a family, so then you meet other family, you make friends, and they naturally know what you do and they see your commitment to what you're doing. And how do you get your commitment across in marketing? I mean, you do have to invest in like social platforms, I feel, even if it's something free to begin with, like posting videos that you can be a resource to someone. Because usually there's lots of questions that need to be answered. And you being able to provide that information just gratis is a helpful way to be remembered, I think, by future buyers and sellers.
Yeah, and you mentioned, getting to know your friends and your family, and then they introduce to others. But how else do you network? Is there certain strategies that you use that you could recommend to others?
Oh gosh, I mean, I've done those like B2B, the brag groups, the meet. A lot of it's just, I think if you've done a good job by somebody and you're following up, you seem to find that you get another referral. That's how it seems to work for me. A friend of mine told me, my mother recently, it's been a lot of parents. Hey, my kids are buying now. That generation.
Kids are listening. Look at that.
Yeah, they're listening to their parents, they're leaning on their parents. And then, just through work relationships, prior sales. But initially, it was what I was doing at that point in time, which was advertising. So, oh, you do real estate? Well, I'm looking for this building. I'm considering selling my medical practice. That was one of the first transactions I did, was a doctor who felt, obviously based on experience with me, that I'd been helpful with his marketing of his business, and then he was trying to take it to the next, I want to segue out and have some other partner potentially buy it, and that didn't work. So can you bring it to the open market?
Okay, neat. Well, and things are ever changing, right? So market's unpredictable. How do you navigate those things, or any advice for somebody that's starting out that needs to know, obviously, how to navigate those changes
in the marketplace? Well, I've always maintained it's a fluid state. So being present in it every day, I mean, so you're new and you don't have a lot going on. I guess if I were in that situation, I would be checking the market every day, getting on my MLS, figuring out what's moving and what's not. Depending, I don't know if you've got a lot of different tools with social media that, like at our office here, we have a marketing manager that will help you just outbound off of like the company's listings in a specific area that you've seen. Oh, looks like Royal Oak is on fire, or we know St. Clair Shores has been. I'm going to do some outbounding with properties that we have had sell there recently and see if anybody has an interest in possibly selling. As for buyers, I mean, that's a lot of just relationship referral, I think.
Right, and just being present in it day to day.
Yeah.
So when you're not present in your job day to day, let's get a little personal. What would we find you doing if you had time to yourself?
Well, I'm a hockey mom. Anybody that knows me, like if you can't get a hold of me, it's usually I'm in an arena with bad cell service, and I have a daughter that's in competitive cheer. So those two things keep you really super busy.
They do.
And then, my off time, free time, early morning, I would say, even on a snowy day like today, hiking out in the woods. I'm a big outdoors person. Anybody that knows me, growing up in the UP. So just enjoying nature, nature.
Okay. We share that.
Oh, awesome.
Very much. So
yeah, you recently hiked the Superstition Mountains, didn't you?
We went up to Porcupine. Up there in the UP as well, back September of last year, and then we did some hiking in South Dakota last year, and the newest hike we're planning is Bryce Canyon in Zion out in Utah.
Oh, wow.
For the September, so we'll throw on some YouTube videos on our private page.
Oh, you have to do that. Yeah. And I honestly think that you need those breaks to clear the cobwebs, bring extra creativity. Thinking outside of the box is always, I think that's my best inspiration is, amongst the trees, for sure.
I love that. Or the rocks in this case, right?
Yep. exactly.
So, well, thank you so much, Joan, for bringing your
Thanks for
personal
having me.
side and your expertise with us today. Before we wrap up, do you have any final words of advice that you didn't already mention that you'd like to share with our viewers, or
Sure.
any projects that
Never,
you're working
never,
on?
never quit. Just stay focused on your eye on the prize. Just keep at it.
Okay.
It'll come together.
It'll come together.
Absolutely.
And how can our viewers contact you? Best ways.
Well, realtorjoanking.com, and then
Okay.
my phone number. I don't know if you guys want me to
Go
give
right
a phone
ahead.
number out.
Sure.
Okay. 586-383-9975.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Well,
Joan.
thank you for
Joan
having me.
King. This concludes our interview, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like our Facebook page at Detroit RETV and our YouTube page as well at Detroit RETV. Stay tuned for more insights from industry leaders on Beyond the Front Door. Thank you so much.